welcome to Should I Buy This Game, featuring the Rats of Wistar. My name is Christine, and in this video I'll give you a brief description on how the game is played, and then share a few things I may like or dislike about the game to help you decide if you want to add the Rats of Wistar to your collection. So here we have the Rats of Wistar, but before we get started, they just want you to know that the Rats of Wistar is not affiliated, associated, authorized, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with the Wistar Institute of Anatomy and Biology. Just so we are clear. So now, here we have the game. And in this video, I'm going to start by giving you an overview of how the game is played. And then I'm going to go into my likes and dislikes. And after that, I'm going to talk briefly about this solo mode. In the Rats of Wistar, you have three main chief rats, and these are the decision makers. And then you have your workers, and they're the ones that are doing all the hard labor for you. And depending how many workers you have working for you, depends how much you can do. So to start off, two of the things you can do is you can gather wood and you can gather metal. And these are the two resources in the game. And again, it depends. So the blue player has two players in the quadrant. It's like here, this area. It's not a quadrant then, it's a third, in the third. And so therefore, they are able to get 2 pieces of wood. Down here in this third, they also have 2 workers. So if the chief was here, then they could get 2 pieces of metal. And then you're also able to do the bonuses of where you're placing them, and this is constantly rotating between each turn. It's all coming off. So it just rotates a third, or a sixth, sorry. It rotates a sixth with each turn. So you're getting different benefits at the different areas each time. So it's wood and metal. Now that you have your wood and metal, it's time to dig and build beds. And again, having 2 workers here, if they had the resources, they could build 2 beds, and they have 2 workers here. So if they have the resources, they could dig 2 holes. And this happens down on your player board. So this is the area we are digging out here. And each time you dig, you have to pay 2 metal. That's why I said, even though they had 2 workers, they would need 4 metal to dig 2 holes. So if you only have 2 metal, you would dig out a hole. Now, if on a turn you were doing the bed action, you need 2 wood per bed. And each time you do that, you release another worker. And then you would take this bed and turn it over like this. And by releasing the beds, you're releasing all your workers. And by digging the holes, you're not only making room for the beds, you're also making room for some guests to come and stay with you for a while. Now, if your chief rat wants to get a card, you come here to the little light bulb. Depending how many workers you have is how many points you have to get cards. There are purple cards that are 1 point and yellow cards that are 2 points. So if you have 4, you could get 2 yellows, you could get 4 purples, you could get 1 yellow, 2 purple, whereas I only had 2 workers, so I didn't have as many choices. Now, the difference though, this is getting a card. If you want to play a card, you need to be on a symbol like this. So in this case, I could put my chief here, and I'm able to get a card as well as play a card in the same turn. And some of the cards, they have a lot of benefits. These are the cards I had used. Some are instant benefits. So you get move points. This one allowed me to play a card for free. I got a wild card symbol. And the other important thing on the cards is getting these icons, which we'll need when we go exploring. Some of them are, every time I would get wood, I'd get an additional wood. This was once per round, I was able to get a point and use that benefit. And then down here are, with this symbol, it is end of game scoring. So there are a lot of benefits. You want to get a variety of cards because with these different icons on them are really important. And then there's also different types of cards. So for example, here, I got to move for the number of cards with this symbol. And so I had a bunch of those cards, which gave me a bunch of movement when I played that card. And the last choice your chief rat can make is to explore, and that's that movement symbol, the compass I was showing you on the cards. And that all happens here in the house. You're making your way through the house to get different benefits, invite rats over, lots of fun. And so in this case, the blue chief has 4 workers in this area, which gives them 4 movements. The first movement can be opening a door. You open the door and they would receive 1 medal. And there are a whole bunch of different benefits on these doors. They're very random. So that's movement number 1. Movement number 2 is entering the room. Movement number 3, or exploring number 3, could be turning over this card. And what this card does, it gets you benefits. So here are those icons I was talking about on the cards. And this is where they come. So if you have 2 of the strength, then you can put a tile here from your player board and gain these benefits. This one is if you have 1 strength and 1 of the hearts and give up 1 of your cards or resources, then you can dig for free. And here, if you have 2 of the little green guys, you can play a card and get a point. And just by turning it over, they automatically on this card receive 2 medal. So for their 4th turn, they can see, do they have any of these to fulfill? And they could fulfill it. If not, they could continue to move. Now, the other option they have too is placing a tent in the area. We have 2 tents per player, and you place it, and that means even if you move, later on, if you're allowed to place a square, you can still do it even though you're not in the room because you've placed your tent here. And that's basically how the Explore works. You want to get these benefits. They're very beneficial, and you use these cubes off your board. This is what I'm talking about, taking your little cubes from your board. This is on your player board. So you have different options. For these 2, if you give up a resource, moving forward, it's only 1 resource to dig and 1 resource to build a bed if you remove these cubes off your board and place them on one of the benefits. Here, this releases this spot here. This gives you some movement. This gives you a little token. These give you points. This lets you do an action. This gets you these bonus cards that give you icons. And this lets you play a card. And then you'll also get points at the end of the game for all the areas that you've removed your cubes. So one of the first things we really like about the game is how there's a variety of choices of things you can be working on. So on your player board, you can be digging up the holes, so and moving over the beds and releasing all your workers. Or you could be collecting cards and trying to play your cards. Or even go exploring through the house and try to open up those benefits so you can start gaining the extra benefits and releasing your cubes into the different areas here. So there's lots of different things you can do during the game. The other thing I like is everybody has 3 of the main chief rats. However, when it comes to the workers, it's up to you to decide how many you want. So in my game, I had 2 workers, but I had benefits that I was able to move the workers where I needed them to go. Whereas Mark, he went all in and he has 8 workers. And so 4 in this area, 2 here, 2 here. And so it's up to you to decide how many workers do you need to get things done. By having more workers, if all 4 workers were over here, he could collect 4 wood instantly or 4 metal. When it comes to actually digging the beds and that, it's really hard to have multiple workers there because you don't usually have the resources to dig 4 beds at once. That would be like 8 wood. And there's a good chance you don't have that. But when it comes to like exploring, the more workers you have, the quicker you can make it through, open up things, get benefits, open the doors, get your guest rats and that. So again, it's up to you how many workers you want. And to get the workers, you need to release some beds and then have your workers. And the third thing I want to mention are these cards. I really like the cards. And So that's why I'm really urging you to pay attention to them. Not only do they give you end of game points, I've got 4 and 2, there was about 15 or 16 points here. Some of them give you some really great benefits, especially this one. It's once per round I was able to do this, the little beaker area. And at that, with this symbol, you're allowed to place a cube or play a card or gain a resource. And so every turn, without having a chief rat, I could put my little token here, get a point, and do one of those actions. And I was able to make a bunch of combo actions because by playing a card, I played a card that allowed me to play a card, or I put a cube somewhere that allowed me to do something else. And when I did that, that allowed me to do something else. And you're really trying to, because it's such a tight game, work in those combos where one action can make you do 3 actions, and I hadn't even taken my turn yet. So even here, like getting movement without having to go to the explore area, here I could explore 2 times just by playing a card. So that's why I really urge you to look at the cards, see what's available to you, and how it can really benefit your game. So a few of our dislikes. Our first one is this game takes 3 to 4 games for you to start to actually figure out how to play and how to gain those combos, as I was mentioning in the cards, and to get the most out of the game. Once you figure that out, then a 2-player game takes just over an hour to play. Another thing is, in a 2-player game, there are 3 areas that only one person can go to each round. In the 3 or 4-player game, you have more choice. But in a 2-player game, only one person can go there. So say if you wanted to dig, you'd have to decide early if there was only one spot there to do it. So you have to look at where these landed, what they're working on, and decide if you want to do this action, maybe that's going to be your first movement of a round, because there's only one spot and only one person can do it that round. Now this is a very tight game, and it's played over 5 rounds, and each round you get 3 choices of what you want to do. So after the first round, you may feel like you did not get anything accomplished. So that is why the more you play, the more you will figure out how to best use your turns. I just want to go back and talk about your workers. So as I mentioned, you would release a bed to get a worker. Now, when I was digging my holes, I was really aiming for these guests. They're throughout the board. They look like this. And they give you either points, benefits for each round, benefits each time you play, or instant benefits, and then the points at the end of the game. And I got the cheese from the bottom. I made it to the end of the exploring board to get the cheese. But I did not release any of my workers because I did not want the beds taking up spaces. I wanted to leave open my dig areas for these beneficial visiting rats. Sorry. So when we come up here, you can see I only played with 2 workers. However, there are movement tokens, so I was able to move workers to different areas when I needed to, but I spent a lot of my time in the exploring, working through the house. So with that being said, Mark had all 8 of his workers out. Now, you would think he could have benefited from that, and maybe he could have. However, in the end, Mark here, Mark had 59 points, and I had 91 points. So it's not necessarily the number of workers you need, it's how you use your workers and what you plan on doing. And again, as I mentioned, getting those cards and the combo movements is what's going to make you win the game. And the last thing I dislike about the game is, as much as I love this little turny thing, you have to remove it and put it on each time you play the game because it will not fit in the box the way it's designed. So I just wish maybe it was designed in a bit different way where it wouldn't have to be constantly taken off and put on each time you play. So I just want to show you this solo mode. I did play with it once and I actually really enjoyed the solo mode. You're playing against the Rat-O-Bot, and their player board is the back of your player board. You just flip it over. And it is played with these cards. So each time it is the Rat-O-Bot's turn, you're going to flip over a card. and it's going to tell you a few things. So first off, it's going to tell you where to place their chief. Now, they do not collect any benefits or any resources. However, where you place this will then determine what action they are taking. In this card, it's telling you to put out 3 mice. So you can put out 3 mice into a section, and each section can only have 3 mice. And then down here, it's telling you to move the square down where the strength is. So that's this area here. Turn the strength around. And so you would move the cube down 1. And as you go, different effects and things will happen. They only get the points at the end of the game where they make it. They don't get 2 points each time they move along. Now this is the easiest mode because on the bottom of the cards, it's 0. And it goes up to 9. So you can have these 3 cards and you can see it's 3. So that's the level of difficulty. Now they're double-sided. Here we have the 2s. And you can see there's a lot more points they would receive, and then right away getting different things, actions going on. And you can have any combination on the back of the 0s or the 1. So you can work your way through if you want to play easy, and as you get better at the game, all the way up to level 9. So there's a lot of choice there. Now I just want to show you here on the board. So when they're playing the different actions, if they're gaining resources, they gain points based on how many workers they have there. If they're building a bed or digging, if they have 0 to 2 workers, they do it once. If they have 3 workers, they do it twice. Now when they do that, they just remove it. If they're removing it, there's no resources, they just take it off. Now the one thing though is if you need to build 2 beds and there isn't an area, one of your turns will be digging and one will be putting in a bed. To get cards, if they have 0 to 2 workers, they'll get these cards, 3 workers, those cards. And then in moving and exploring, 0 to 2, you move once, 3, you move twice. And the movement comes with these cards, depending where you're located and how many moves you're doing, you turn it over. And finally, if you go to the lab, they're placing a cube and or moving a cube down the strength. And placing a cube is the same rules as you. They have to be in the area or have a tent in the area to place a cube. And they would place these cubes, releasing points. We really enjoyed playing the Rats of Wistar. As I said, you really want to give it a chance and play a few times to really get the concept of the game. So let me know in the comments if you have played the Rats of Wistar and what you think of the game.